Yeah.
Good evening. We're going to get started in 2 minutes, so if everyone can start taking their seats, thank you.
I'm trying to bury ourselves further here. Yeah. Like reduce this song. Yeah. We can try.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to get started. I'd like to call the August 24th, 2026 meeting of the Warren Planning Board to order. The time is 6:30 p.m. This meeting is being streamed live on YouTube. We will now take roll.
Caitlin Ganguza,
Terry Delapaz.
Tim White. Blake Costa.
Jenny Flanagan.
Members John Bento and Tyler Dixon are excused from this meeting. We have a quorum. We will proceed. Item 2 is the approval of the minutes from the July 27, 2026 meeting. Vice Chair Flanagan went ahead and gave us her red lines. Members, have everyone been able to review it? Are there any comments or additions? She has your additions, Terry.
She does.
And I took the additions and gave them to Alyssa, so she has all the corrections at this point.
Any other comments?
No.
I make a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Back up. Any discussion? No? All right, we're good to go. All right, item 3 is 10 Liberty Street Partners LLC, Comprehensive Permit Master Plan Certificate of Records. Matter returns to the board on remand following a Superior Court decision in Alday versus Town of Warren Planning Board. I will hand it over to the town solicitor as he has an update for us.
Mr. Chair, at the request of the attorneys involved on both sides of that appeal and decision, they've requested that this application get continued to next month without any discussion or action tonight.
I make a motion to continue the application until next month.
Second?
Just a discussion on this. So we will continue this next month where we will take action. We can't speak on any action today. The board members have been given about close to 1,000 pages of documents that are being reviewed, and we're prepared to sit on this next month. I know there's members of the public that may have come out here for this application. We appreciate your participation and strongly encourage you to attend next month. With any further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, so before next, nope, gotta go down. We'll now open the public hearing for the comprehensive permit master plan application 360 Market Street. Assessor's Plat 23, lots 68 and 69. Owners Meow LLC. The proposal is a major land development involving adaptive reuse of the existing school building into 32 residential apartments with 45 additional townhomes throughout the site. Before we let the applicant begin their presentation, we're going to go ahead and brief the board and the public just on the comprehensive permit process and the master plan. So I thought it'd be a good idea, and I ran this by the solicitor, just to go through this application. For the board members, we have some new board members that haven't been through a comprehensive permit process. And for the public here, as we can all see, we have a great gathering. So that being said, so what is so what is being brought to us is a comprehensive permit application under Rhode Island's law for low and moderate income housing act. It is currently before us as a master plan stage. Because a comprehensive permit follows a different process than conventional subdivision or zoning applications, I want to lay out how the process works and then go through these specific items I want the board to keep in mind as we hear this application tonight. Part one is the master plan, preliminary plan, and final plan. So a comprehensive permit application under Rhode Island General Law, Section 4553-4, moves through up to 3 stages of review. That's a master plan, the preliminary plan, and the final plan. Each stage asks different information and applies different standards, so it matters what stage we're at. Tonight, we're talking about the master plan. What is a master plan? It is optional for the applicant who has chosen to come in front of us and present it today. The applicant elects to come to us in a conceptual stage before filing a full preliminary plan. Because it is a conceptual stage, the statute limits what the applicant has to submit. An application fee, a short written project description covering unit count, housing type, and density analysis, and a list of adjustments the applicant anticipates needing. Conceptual site plans showing infrastructure, stormwater, sewer and water, unit locations, and site constraints like wetlands. A preliminary traffic opinion in the project is for over 30 units, and a letter of eligibility from the Rhode Island Housing. A public hearing is only required at this stage if the applicant is requesting adjustments. And here, because waivers are being requested, that's exactly why we're holding the public hearing tonight. The finding standards at the master plan is also different from a full hearing. The statute tells us to make findings on the same 6 standards required in the preliminary plan, which I will touch on, but only to the extent that is applicable. At this conceptual stage, importantly, the failure to provide information that isn't required until preliminary plan is not by itself a basis to deny master plan. If we decide to defer a finding to the preliminary stage, the statute requires us to stay on the record and in our written decision and specify exactly what we still need to see. If we approve the master plan, the approval is vested for 2 years. The right to extend for the right to extend for 2 additional 1-year terms. Then we would move on after this to the preliminary plan, is where a full application comes together. At this stage, the applicant has to submit the letter of eligibility, if it wasn't already given to us at the master plan, a letter signed by the applicant's authorized representative that identifies the specific sections of our ordinances and the applicant is seeking relief from, not a general reference, but the actual section numbers. A proposed construction timetable and the full local checklist items required for a comprehensive permit, other than proof of state and federal permits. A public hearing is mandatory at this stage, and we have 90 days from the certification of completeness to render a decision. At the preliminary plan, we have to make 6 specific findings, each supported by legal, competent evidence. These are the findings that we will hold during the master plan too. Those findings are: 1, whether the proposed development is consistent with local needs under the town's affordable housing plan. 2, whether it complies with our zoning and subdivision standards, or where adjustments are requested, whether the local concerns affected by the relief are outweighed by the state and local needs for affordable housing. 3, whether the affordable housing units are integrated throughout the development, compatible in scale with the market rate units, and built and occupied in proportion with them. 4, whether there will be significant negative impacts to health and safety. 5, whether there will be adequate and permanent physical access to public streets. And last, 6, whether any lot has a physical constraint that would make this development impractical. Preliminary plan approval is vested for 2 years with 2 possible 1-year extensions. Once again, we are in the master plan phase of this application. Following the preliminary plan, we will go into the final plan review. Final plan is handled administratively in most cases, unless the applicant received waivers from a preliminary plan checklist items in which this board can vote to require an applicant to come back for final plan review. At that stage, all state and federal permits must already be in hand, along with a monitoring agreement and deed restrictions or land lease keeping the affordable units affordable for at least 30 years. The decision clock is 45 days. So to put it simply, master plan is a conceptual look of the broad strokes. Preliminary plan is a full evidence-based hearing with binding findings. And final plan is largely administrative confirmation that everything approved actually got built and permitted the way we said it would. Tonight, we're only at the first of these 3 stages. So why is a comprehensive permit not a conventional subdivision? I also want to be clear on the record about what makes a comprehensive permit application different from a conventional subdivision or zoning application, because it changes what we're doing here tonight in a few specific ways. First, a comprehensive permit is a single consolidated application in place of separate applications to separate boards. Instead of the applicant going to the zoning board for relief and then to the planning board, us for subdivision approval, this board handles the whole review in one process with the same authority of any of those other local boards would otherwise have. Second, the law requires us to make certain zoning incentives available as a matter of right, not a discretionary relief that the applicant has to earn the way a variance would typically work. That includes minimum density bonus above what's allowed by right, a cap required on parking for smaller units, a floor on the number of bedrooms we can require per unit, and a bar using floor area requirements to limit the project. Those statutory minimums for a qualifying project, not something the applicant has to justify a hardship for. So typically when we hear variances and waivers, there has to be shown a hardship. The comprehensive permit affords the applicant an ability not to have to demonstrate those hardships. With that framework in mind, here are the specific items I want the board, the applicant, and the public to focus on as we hear this master plan application. So a lot of this will be for you to support you as you go into your presentation. The waivers list in front of us asks for 4 procedural waivers: landscaping plan, traffic impact assessment, certain legal documents, and utility availability letter. What I don't see identified anywhere is dimensional, use, density, or parking relief. Even though a multifamily housing of this type is typically not permitted by right in R20 zone. Under the statute, the master plan submission is supposed to include a list of adjustments the applicant anticipates needing at the preliminary plan. That has become a signed letter citing the specific ordinance section. I want the applicant to tell us tonight, even at the conceptual level, every adjustment you expect to need from the ordinances. I'm not looking for you to quote the ordinances, but help us understand these dimensional variances you may need. The applicant has since given us specific and a submitted unit breakdown. The existing building, the adaptive reuse of the former school, holds 32 units, all market rate, 2-bedroom each. The new construction adds 45 units, 3-bedroom each, 33 market rate and 12 affordable, which the applicant identifies as a 25% requirement for the comprehensive permit process. I do want to flag one thing for the record: 12 affordable units out of 45 in the new building comes to 25%, matching the statutory threshold. But if we look at the application as a whole, all 77 units, the existing building and the new buildings together, those same 12 affordable units come to roughly 16%. The comprehensive permit statute requires at least 25% of the housing in the application to be low to moderate income for this process to be available at all. I want the solicitor read on which figures control the new construction loan or the applicant taken as a whole, because that goes whether this qualifies. So I'd like that something we address on the record tonight. Our records show discrepancies between roughly 26-acre wetland reserve easement described as to be granted and a separate already recorded easement of just 1 acre. Site constraints, including wetlands, are part of the master plan submission. It's supposed to identify conceptually. I'd like to hear current status of those easements and treat the site plan as reliable. So I'd like you to address that today. Portions of the developed area appear to fall within FEMA Zone AE with the base flood elevation of 13 feet. Health and safety impacts, including surface water and flood exposure, are part of what will ultimately have to make findings on at the preliminary plan. I want to flag this now for you at the conceptual stage, so it's addressed at the design as a design develops rather than surfacing for the first time at the preliminary plan. So I'm not looking for an answer today. I'm just trying to highlight it that this is going to come up. So as we go through this process, let's work together on this and address it. Just a couple minor issues I want to flag for the record for the application. There's an undated signature and some blank attorney fields that we should just address. Let's get that cleaned up. I don't think either one's disqualifying, but I want to correct them for the record. So this applicant is marked as accurately completed. Finally, given the coastal wetlands on this site, I'd like the applicant to speak to the anticipated status of the Rhode Island DEM, Department of Environmental Management, and Coastal Readiness,
The
CRMC,
Coastal Resource Management Council.
Coastal Resource Management Council permit and CRMC. I recognize evidence of these permit isn't required until later in the process, but given the site condition and how close it is to the water, I think it's useful for the board and the public to understand your expectations now. We're not asking for you to give us exact timelines. Just give us an update on where it's at and what you anticipate and any communications you've had. So with that framework and those items in mind, I'll now open the public hearing. Item 4, 360 Market Street. I ask the applicant to begin with their presentation. Oh,
Was that it?
no, that's it. Yeah, we're good. That's for public comment. Please, the floor is yours.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you, Chairman, for explanation of how the comprehensive plan works. I think it's helpful for everyone. We're here tonight to present for today Highlander Condominium Project. We're looking for a more suitable name for it, but for now, we're keeping it Highlander Condominiums. What we're proposing. Okay. What we're proposing today is a 2-phase development where the existing school will be converted to apartment style units and undeveloped land around the school into a townhouse style or townhouses, cluster townhouses. We intend this project to be for sale and to address a few issues that you brought up. I think it is an oversight or typo on our end, but the school units, apartment style units, will also have 25% affordable units. All units will be equally spread out throughout the development. We're not intending to cluster them into one spot. Each style or size of the unit also will have an equal percentage of affordable units. We already have approached CRMC about the existing easement and possibility of it being relocated. Preliminary discussions did not give us a solid answer yet. However, we are prepared to readjust our site plan slightly to if they do not agree to the easement change, and we'll keep the easement as is and just work around it.
If I can quickly state, it's actually Natural Resources Conservation Service that holds the easement, not CRMC.
Correct. I apologize. It is the federal government that holds the easement, and we are in communications with that department. We are also in communications with CRMC. They take priority on a jurisdiction here. Our current site design, it took under consideration all the setbacks and wetland requirements. And we are not seeking for any waivers from CRMC. In fact, we are offering to revegetate certain areas that have been disturbed prior and give it back to the wetlands areas. So we're working with all agencies that we're required to work with to make sure everything is within their requirements and regulations. But I think we're also took made a lot of effort to ensure that this development fits with the neighborhood and fits with the environment and doesn't disturb whether it's natural habitats or wetlands for the existing neighborhood. We're hoping this development will enhance and make the area better and will give rise to new residents and new retail opportunities and commercial opportunities and other opportunities for the businesses around. So we're hoping to be a partner here to the town of Warren and to the neighborhood as well. I will pass the mic to our engineer and planner to speak to the details of the development and to address all the comprehensive plan compliances and other questions as well that you had.
So for CRMC, are you saying that CMRC has no interest because you're outside of the buffer zone?
They still have to do their review,
Okay,
but what we've done is make sure that we are not impeding on the buffer zone
yep.
and outside of the buffer zone. So, but I will let Ben to speak more on that subject.
Okay, great. Just for members of the public, so we're recording this meeting for minutes. It's important that we create an accurate record for this application. So if you'd like to have a conversation, I just ask that you step outside towards the front stairwell because we have to keep these doors open for an Open Meetings Act. So if you can refrain from having conversations in here so we can capture an accurate record. And if you do need to have a conversation, we just ask that you step outside to the front stairwell. With that being said, sir, what was yours? I'm sorry, ma'am. Can you just state your name for the record?
My apologies. Aurora Lee. I represent Meow LLC.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Benjamin Cato, registered professional engineer, state of Rhode Island. I'm with Millstone Engineering out of Warwick. And I just wanted to give you a review of the site plan, touch on some of the pieces that Aurora mentioned earlier, and also hopefully knock off some of the punch list items that the chairman brought up his preamble. So for the record, the site we're looking at is Assessor's Plat 23, lot 68 and 69, 360 Market Street. And as you are no doubtly aware, this is a site of a former school for many years, most recently a charter school. So there's an existing school building on the property as well as parking and access ways. There are fields around the building, and also up front there's a multi-use field along Market Street. The site is zoned residential R20. The entire acreage of the property is 40.6 acres. The site is surrounded by a multitude of uses, notably residential to the south. There's also a mix of residential and commercial across the street to the east. There's a historic cemetery, which is not part of this lot or project. Just wanted to call that out. It is kind of central in the lot, but it's cut out. It's its own parcel. There's also some residential commercial to the north, and the site is dominated by a conservation easement that's brought up earlier through the NRCS. There's also some utility easements that run along Palmer River to the west, and there are extensive wetlands on the property. So on the plans that both these plans, so everybody is aware of the same plan at this point, so everybody can see. But the colored lines, the green line is the wetland flag. That's the actual edge of wetland that was flagged by a biologist. There's also a red and a blue line. Those represent different floodplain lines. And then there is like kind of a magenta line that is a wetland buffer for coastal. It's a CRMC. These are coastal wetlands, so it is a CRMC jurisdiction. So just to kind of clarify the discussion on CRMC before I move further, this project is proposing no new work within the CRMC buffer. However, the existing building itself and some of the parking that's there today is in that buffer. It's an existing condition. So our process with CRMC is merely to state that we're not making any more improvements to the buffer. And to the extent that is safely possible, we're going to revegetate that buffer per CRMC standards to bring it back into the intent of the regulations. So as mentioned, the proposed development is the conversion of the existing school to 32 units. They'll have 2 bedrooms each for a total of 64 bedrooms in that building. There'll be on-grade parking to service that use there. 81 parking spaces are proposed right now. That's 2.5 per unit. And then the majority of the townhouses are proposed in the multi-use field up front. So we feel this is a way, we placed them in this area because it's an already disturbed area. It has some natural buffering to the neighbors already, which we intend to maintain and increase along the property lines. And it also keeps the majority of the development well away from the coastal wetlands. There are a few outlying buildings to the north and to the west of the existing building. That's just to get the numbers to work right for the affordability component. But again, the majority of the townhouses are in that field in front. We try to space these buildings so that they have plenty of green space around them, centralized green area between all of the buildings along or in that in that field out front. We're proposing to utilize the existing curb cuts. We may adjust them north or south a little bit to get the geometry right, but the essential location is going to be maintained in the current condition. When we sat down with the TRC, it was brought up that there's a potential issue with one of the driveways here. We show a dual access being a egress and exit at ingress and egress. There you go. At both entrances, at both points, curb cuts. But the town has made us aware that there's some issues with that, and we have no problem with making one-way roads interior to this as long as we can maintain safe circulation for vehicles and emergency vehicles. We have no problem with that. We think it may actually help with some of the conditions that are currently there. The driveways today are posted one way in, one way out. Not everybody utilizes that, but that's what the sign says. If you actually drive by there today, you'll see there's an entrance sign for the construction that's going on and the easement going the wrong way down the one way. But we understand the issue and we're hoping to resolve that as part of this development. We're proposing sidewalks interior to the property. There's existing sidewalks on Market Street. We'll be connecting to those and providing access ways throughout the property. We'll also, as part of our enhanced parking, provide more ADA spaces.
On the sidewalks, I know this was brought up during TRC. We talked about the front sidewalk. We set precedent with previous applicants. That's our northern gateway, Market Street. Those sidewalks are in despair. Do you have any intentions of addressing that Market Street sidewalk?
So yeah, as part of the general beautification of the area, we're proposing, that was my next bullet point, some landscaping. It's okay.
Please, go ahead.
But we are proposing landscaping, as I mentioned, and I show it conceptually on this plan. We are at the master plan stage. But along that southern property line, we want to provide buffering to the existing neighbors in their backyards. It also provides screening for their future owners of the townhomes to make sure that everybody has the privacy that they deserve. We're also proposing screening to Market Street to kind of soften that entrance right now. Right now, when you drive down there, you can see the fields and you see the school behind it. The idea is to soften that up so you see more green than you do today. And as part of that will be the sidewalk improvements. We heard the TRC have concerns about and request that we meet with the tree council. What's the conversation? Tree warden, which we will do as part of our preliminary plan application to make sure we have landscaping in the right areas and the right kinds of trees. Whether the sidewalk is up on the curb as it is today or is pushed back with some landscape between the sidewalk and the road, we'll work that out with the town.
And then just make sure you're, I know we're in the conceptual phase, but when you do meet with the tree warden, it's very important for the neighbors who are all here today that you get the tree warden's input on what's best to support the buffer between you and the adjacent neighbors.
Right. And we'll have a landscape architect on our
Okay.
side as well to make sure that that's all meets the code. So stormwater, we're proposing stormwater to be detained on site. It will meet the Rhode Island standards, DEM standards through CRMC. So as you're probably aware, CRMC has the jurisdiction, as I said. but the requirements for stormwater still run through DEM. So we'll meet the DEM regulations, but we'll get our approvals through CRMC. That's how they work that. We've already done test holes out here. We're comfortable with the groundwater elevation, seasonal high groundwater elevations and the condition of the subsoils to accommodate what we anticipate to be flow from a site such as this. We're proposing to connect to public sewer and public water. The property currently has a connection to the water system. We'll be utilizing that and making improvements as necessary. We have reached out to Bristol Water for that preliminary assessment. And we've also spoken with the town and the town's consulting engineer on the sewer connection. It's early in the phases of design, but we are aware that the town may need some upgrades to some of their sewer systems and infrastructure, and we're working with the town and their subconsultant on those improvements. Question came up earlier today, and I realize it's really not on our plan, but the density is not shown. So we know the numbers of units and the percentage of affordables, but density is an important factor, and it is highlighted in the regulations extensively. So I wanted to talk to that a little bit right now. So the town's definition of density depends on the suitable area of the lot. On this particular property, there are no real steep slopes that meet the definition of steep slopes in the town's regulations of 25%, but there are, as I said, many wetlands on the site. So when we do our density calculation, we subtract out the wetland area and we are left with the remaining lot area, and we used our.
Sorry for asking, but the town's standard does not exclude conservation easement areas?
Easement is not defined, but I did work it out because I thought that question would come up. In the definition for suitable area, it only mentions wetlands and I can have it
Slope.
and steep slopes. But that being said, I have the number for you because I'm sure you'd be curious anyway.
Because it can't be built on that easement area.
Right.
So.
Yep. I did think it was interesting when it's not there, but it's all wetlands and slopes, 1, 2, and 3. So let's do the first piece as per the code. When we break out the wetlands, we're left with 17.45 acres. So with a unit count of 77, that density is 4.4 units per acre.
Sorry, what's that number again?
4.4.
No, the 17.
17.45.
And that's the land suitable for development based on the current definition in our zoning, land development regulations.
That is correct.
And that includes the easement within that calculation?
No.
No.
Easement is not considered.
Okay.
Also. Now the easement, when I get to that next column here, the easement is going to be in the next calculation, but keep in mind the majority of that easement is wetlands. So it's really not that much more area that's taken out. But when we do take that out, we're down to just over 15 acres, 15.02. So there's an extra 2 acres or so, 1.5 acres of easement area. So with that unit count of 77, that brings our density up to 5.1.
Sorry, the number with the easement area excluded was how many acres? 15?
With the easement area, 15, correct.
15.02.
15.02, thank you.
Right.
So density equals 5.1 units per acre,
That's correct.
and that's for the whole project, right?
Yes. So we submitted a document as part of our application with a list of waivers that we were requesting. And the majority of those are checklist related. We asked for a waiver from the landscape plan at this stage, knowing that we will provide one at preliminary. We wanted to get some feedback from this board before we went forward and started our landscape design. Traffic impact assessment, we've asked to be waived until the preliminary plan stage. My client has engaged a traffic consultant. They're working on the project now, so we should have something hopefully in the next 4 or 5 weeks.
Do you have like a general statement you can provide as it relates to traffic impact?
I do not.
It's, as I alluded to in my earlier opening comments, that's something we would like to see. And then, the board, I encourage you to input your comments here, but, Market Street's a arterial roadway meant to handle heavy traffic. We don't understand that. However, you are coming out without any signals into that intersection. We're not looking for an exact level of service, just a general statement as noted in general law. Are you able to provide something of that nature?
No, that's not my expertise. I would be
The
in
applicant,
error if I
ma'am,
did that.
is that something you'd be able to provide?
I can't provide a formal statement, but I could, make a statement as a developer that, we normally work with the town and the neighborhood to address any traffic concerns. And if the traffic study shows that it requires a traffic light or some additional measures in the flow, just like switching the driveways into one way, we are prepared to make those adjustments. We will, we do take safety, very seriously. So
Okay.
we will,
I'd like to give our solicitor a comment, an opportunity.
I just want to
comment on this.
clarify, Mr. Chair, as you said in your opening here, that at this stage of the game, a preliminary traffic opinion for projects over 30 dwelling units is a requirement at this stage of the game.
So that's, you're over 30 units. That's something we're gonna hold you to.
okay.
We need that to move forward in this stage of the application. And we're not looking for a traffic study, just as a solicitor state, a traffic opinion. That could be on a letterhead submitted to this board, but that's something we're gonna hold you to. I mean, the board,
Agreed.
you know, that's part of the requirements, and it's outlined clearly in general law.
Okay, so what does that mean for today's hearing?
We saw a lot, so I'd like you to continue on, right? This is a big project, so you look like this. Please state your name for the
My name
record.
is Stephen Izzy. I represent the applicant. The traffic study was waived on the checklist, which is why it wasn't provided to us.
Sorry, he said the traffic study was waived on the checklist. We're not requesting a traffic study. We're requesting the opinion letter,
Just the opinion.
just the opinion letter. So
All right, there was a little
yeah,
confusion.
no, I'm very clear on that. We're not requesting the traffic study, right? We're okay with that being pushed forward unless anyone from the board, but we need an opinion letter per the Rhode Island general law. We're
Okay.
gonna meet that requirement.
I think there was some confusion about
Okay.
the distinction between the study and the opinion letter and what was actually waived.
With that being said, I'd like, before I speak for the board as whole, does anyone have any input on those comments I made?
Traffic study is going to be highly imperative. We're talking about Route 136, a major gateway in and out of Warren.
No
It's a state
question.
highway,
Yeah.
and we've got buses to account for the different level of grade school levels. There's a lot of things that are going to have to be taken into consideration. So it's
Completely
imperative.
understood, but and we will have that completed for the preliminary hearing.
And which is why I think we hold them accountable to the Rhode Island general law to say, deliver us an opinion letter at a minimum from a qualified engineer.
Yes, at a minimum.
Okay, we will get that.
If I might, Mr. Chairman,
Please.
just to clarify for members of the public and for the board, that the waiver on the traffic study is just for master plan. It is a requirement and condition of preliminary. So we will be getting a traffic study attached to this project, just not at this stage yet.
Yep.
And what we're asking for is an opinion from the traffic engineer that's almost like an introduction to the traffic study and should bring in any issues or concerns or strengths or weaknesses at that point.
Right.
And just to make sure we do this process right, I think it's appropriate we hold it accountable to the general law and we meet that minimum requirement.
Understood.
So what does that mean for today's hearing?
I mean, we can continue on, right? These processes are long. They're not meant to be solved in one day. If we come out of here with a decision one day, I don't believe we're doing the appropriate due diligence. We need to do due diligence. We need to hear you. Continue on with your presentation. But after your presentation, we're gonna have a lot of public comments. So I think we can't open it up to the public until we close out your comments or your presentation, correct? Should I?
They will have an opportunity after the public hearing
Okay.
to.
So depending on how your presentation goes today, right? Duration, we can open up to the public comment. We can continue this meeting to the next regular scheduled meeting in September, at which point you can bring any deliverables that we come out of this meeting with, or any requests of the boards to satisfy what we need to make a motion on the master plan for this project. Does that answer your question, ma'am?
Yes. Okay. Guess back to Ben.
Thank you, sir.
So one other thing I wanted to add to that, not to belabor the point, but it is a state highway, so a physical alteration permit is going to be required from the state DOT. And obviously that's going to require a traffic study as well. So we're well aware that that is required, and we'll have the opinion letter for you next month. Some of the other waiver requests we asked for were things like homeowners association, legal documents, even in draft form. We wanted to wait until we had our master plan approval. We asked for a waiver for utilities. Just at that point, we hadn't reached out to utility companies yet, but after we met with our TRC and the request of the town, we've reached out to the appropriate utility companies and we're waiting for feedback from them at this stage.
On the utilities, I just think it's appropriate we address this while we're on the topics. Do we have any feedback from the pump station?
The engineers are still having preliminary discussions, is my understanding. The town's engineer, Wood and Curran, and Ben, your
Also,
team,
yep.
yes. So we have not received any feedback from either organization yet.
Okay, continue.
So I would like to, if I may, I have some preliminary renderings that have been put together for this project. I'd like to share those with the board. We have not submitted them as of yet, but they just came in.
And just for the members of the public, everything you see today that's presented by the applicant will be available on the Town Planning Board website. You can go to the Town Planning Board website, scroll to the bottom, and you'll see plans for this applicant. You can click on that, it'll expand it, and you'll have full access to everything you see here today. So even though you may not have the best view, I encourage you to utilize the website. You can have your own version.
Everything
But this is submitted today. So everything besides this is available for you on the website. This is a new submission for us today.
Be on the website.
Sure. And we'll be on the website shortly. Yeah, I make a motion that we accept. Make a motion that we accept the 360 Market Street exterior elevations labeled Highlander condominiums, 360 Market Street, Rhode Island, Warren, Rhode Island, exterior elevations, existing building. Labeled A 1.1 exterior elevations. And I ask that the clerk date this for today, for the record. Looking for a second.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
We accept this. Great.
So they're together.
Thank you.
So there's the ones.
Thank you.
So as we go through these elevations, there's part of this application where we have to take into consider a comprehensive plan that we've developed as a town. This is our northern gateway to the town. You're one of the, you're going to be the first large residential properties that individuals that come to this town are going to see. So as we work through this, I think the board, as we are accountable to the comprehensive plan, we take that into account. The aesthetics, the appearance of this are important, and they are captured, that importance, in the northern gateway of Warren in the comprehensive plan. So we may give you feedback. We're not here nitpicking or giving our subjective input on what it should look like. We're trying to represent our comprehensive plan. We good on that? All right, please continue.
So there are two sheets provided. The first one is the one that the chairman read into the record, is the exterior elevations A 1.1. And that shows the addition of some windows and door features to the existing school building. As it will become a residential use, there's some changes that need to be made. And it also, you can see that it takes, if you're familiar with the existing building, it's multiple different facades over time, and different colors and different materials. And this sort of unifies it into one cohesive look. Try to get rid of the appearance of multiple additions. The second sheet, project rendering sheet, is something that shows what the townhouses would look like and how they scale in proportion to the existing building and their view from different angles within the site, and also some slightly elevated ones. I would like to point out that these are conceptual. So some of the features you may see in these architecturals are not on the site plan. It's the site plan that is governing what these would look like. So if there's, for instance, one of these units may not have a driveway or something that's on the elevation, that's not necessarily the case. It was just more to give you an idea of the look and feel of the proposed buildings and changes to the existing building.
Just to address for the board, this isn't taking into account future landscaping plans which will be presented following meetings with tree commission. So this is strictly just structural appearances.
Correct.
Okay. So this is a time as a board, right? As we are in the conceptual part of this, we give them our feedback and we give them our input so that if this project moves to the preliminary plan, we can address this prior to it getting to there and have a more productive application. So any members of the board, I encourage you, if you have any questions, comments, feedback, please feel free to address the representative.
Will the percentage of impermeable surfaces be addressed on the landscape plan? Or is that
That'll be part of the engineering plans.
engineering?
Yeah, so the stormwater that's going to be designed, stormwater retention, detention, infiltration will be designed to accommodate any increase in impervious. Also, as this is an older development, the existing building, rooftop, and pavement doesn't really have a lot of water quality features to it. There's a small depression up near Market Street that accepts some of the flow today, but a lot of that is untreated. And so then the proposed development, everything on the site will meet the current standards for RIDEM.
Sorry, before, please. Stormwater management. So this has been an issue in the town before where we have developments that come in and then we become responsible for stormwater management infrastructure. And next thing you know, it turns into a mess. We don't have the resources in DPW, nor do we have the funds to really manage these. Just for the record, stormwater management, there'll be a maintenance plan in place. It'll be responsibility of the condominium association. Can you confirm that?
That's correct.
And then I would encourage you to communicate with our interim director, Mary Hunt of DPW, to try to understand the problems that we've been having with stormwater management and make sure you apply best practices and lessons learned. And I would like, doesn't have to be captured during this, but if we move forward to preliminary plan, those are things that I, as an individual, will be looking for. The state, we all just went through the recent stormwater management training. It's a 2-hour training session, so we're all hot and heavy on stormwater. So expect us to hold you accountable for that.
Sure.
Board, other comments, questions on design or anything else?
This is interior design questions, but I'm probably gonna come up. The gymnasium, the cafeteria, and the chapel, are they being turned into units? Are they becoming common areas? How are they being treated?
The gym is, we're converting the gym into residential units. I actually do not know if there's currently a chapel.
Okay, so the chapel is gone, okay.
Right. The cafeteria, portion of the cafeteria will become common areas and amenities and offices. And then there is a narrow building, if you're looking from the street on the left, they actually will become townhouses. So I guess not the entire school is being converted into apartment style. Because it's such a narrow building, putting a corridor and units, it just didn't have enough room. The units would be very narrow. So we thought that it would be better suited for 2-story townhomes. It's a currently 2-story building. They'll have individual doors outside. So practically will be townhouses, 2-story townhouses. But yes, every section of the existing school is getting converted. We're not proposing any demolition. 1-story connections, that's where we're predominantly putting all our common elements, amenities, and our offices and the maintenance offices.
Thank you.
Elevation, so I'm looking at the existing school, right? So we just have elevations to the level 2. What is the peak elevation of that structure? And then what's going to be the peak elevation of the townhouse?
Good question.
And
Well, it's,
you're gonna be back.
yeah,
next month.
we're gonna give you actual elevations and floor plans at preliminary. But they're comparable two-story buildings with the roof peak is going to be comparable to that existing two-story structure that the building is today, as far as height goes.
So we're not gonna have, an instance of giant massing that's gonna, you're gonna have these massing structures that overshadow the school in the front and, correct?
That's not the intent, no. And that's, hopefully that's what that bottom left picture shows, is that they're very similar in scale when you're looking through.
I have a question about the units in the school itself. Just a clarification, they will also be for sale,
Correct.
but no rentals. It'll be
Correct.
all,
So we would like the entire project to be for sale. Yes. We have a rental, backup plan if when we come to market, there are absolutely no buyers. We don't expect it. I think there's a very high demand for homeownership, but both the school and the townhomes will be for homeownership. We believe there is quite a high demand for both townhouse styles and apartment style units.
thank you.
All right, so going back, so we have 77 units total. What's your, I know you said 25% for both the adaptive reuse and the new construction. What's that number? Please.
20 units.
My math is right, it should be 20. Okay. Yeah, 19.25 is the actual math on 77 units. So the unit count being, whatever the unit count is, the commitment is to
So 20 units brings you
25%.
to 25.974, so you meet that threshold.
Yep.
So 20 units, affordable. And that's gonna be, this was just part of my opening comments, so that's gonna be mixed through, how many units are gonna be let me go to your, I know you provide this for us.
Yeah, and that is actually it's already out of date. So
Okay.
it's because of the what you brought to light earlier today, and we are going to mix them throughout the development. So it'll be a proportional amount.
Okay,
So I mean, we can sit and do the math if you'd like, we'll have all that spread out for you, but there'll be appropriate amount of the 25% will be in each section.
and that's what we'll hold you accountable for, and as we've done and set precedent for, we're not gonna wanna see all your affordable units in the basement. We're gonna wanna see them mixed in appropriately. Okay, going back. So zoning relief being sought, now you don't have to provide this now, but, you know, in good faith, do you know what reliefs you're looking to seek on this?
We hit all of our bulk requirements right now as far as setbacks and coverage, building coverage goes. So we don't anticipate any waivers for those items. We may come back with some waivers for things like roadway width. You know, if we can, especially if we're going a one-way, we may want to narrow that to decrease the impervious and impacts on the environment that way. But I don't foresee any zoning related variances, for lack of a better term, at this stage.
Council?
Mr. Chair, I also recommend kind of a breakdown, as you noted in your opening comments, that two statutory frameworks that we're currently working on with this project. So maybe it'd be helpful to the board to list all the relief that is being asked, and particularly under what statute is that relief being asked from.
Just 1 second, I'll address that. So in preparation, so you're coming back for another, meeting. We're not here to drag out this process. We have a fiduciary obligation to make sure we do our due diligence and are accountable to Rhode Island general law. So with that being said, we ask that when you come back next time, can you bring those reliefs? And can you correlate them to the applicable zoning ordinances on which you may seek those reliefs?
In particular, if you're getting relief from the adaptive use statute or under the comprehensive permit statute, to specify kind of where it's coming from, so the board knows how to address each relief.
Thank you. Let me just go through my notes, please. You address the wetland reserve easement,
And while he mentions that, I'll just I was formerly on the Warren Land Trust. And we have a the Land Trust had a Natural Resources Conservation Service Wetlands Reserve Program easement on one of their properties down the road from Highlander, the Soames Meadow Preserve, which is across from Sippendip.
Yep.
There's an
Lot.
access easement across the little house lot that's
Yes.
got the little white house, and we approached NRCS to move the location of that easement. And they said, you could try. And they said, last time we tried to do it, it took us 5 years. And we had to get approval from the Secretary of Department of Agriculture. So I'm just giving you a heads up of what we were told 4 years ago on what it took to get a federal easement modified.
Yep.
Just,
You have a 4-year vesting period on this.
yeah, so I would encourage you to start that process really soon and maybe have that nailed down before you come back with preliminary.
We appreciate the heads up. Thank you.
Do you have anything else to present at this time?
I think I am done at this time. We have Doug McLean here as a planner to do some testimony.
I just have one
Planner,
question for the
yeah.
developer. Ms. Lee, and you certainly don't have to disclose, as part of your financials for your cap stack on this project, are you looking at adding CPACE or LIHTC or historic tax credit?
No.
Okay. And the reason I asked, Mr. Chairman, is that any of those tax credits or funding streams would have set parameters around certain forms of the development.
Okay, and that's something that we would address in the preliminary plan, correct? So we are in receipt of, please, go ahead and state your name and then I'll just address this before we go.
And then I've got an update on that
Updated?
too.
Okay, just state your name for the record.
Sure. Doug McLean.
All right, so Mr. McLean submitted, you are a town planner, correct?
Yeah, I do work as a professional
Can
planner.
you please, state your certifications?
Sure.
For the record.
Yeah, I've been working as a professional planner in the state of Rhode Island for 20 years. I've worked in a mix of consulting and municipal practice. I've worked for the municipalities of North Kingstown, South Kingstown, Cranston, and currently with Coventry. I do have my certification through the American Institute of Certified Planners. I've maintained that certification for the past 18 years. And I've appeared before dozens of boards in the state. I've been in front of the Warren Planning Board once before.
Okay.
So that's a little background on me. And then if you don't mind,
Please.
for housekeeping purposes, I have made very minor revisions to this report. They were based on some of the feedback we received from staff and
Great.
TRC. The revisions, just so you have an idea, there was an adjustment to the reference to a street on the first page, and then throughout the document, I made sure to clarify that the applicant's intent is to do for sale units. There had previously been
Okay.
some thought about rental, so that has been clarified here, but the substance of the report, the arguments haven't changed. So really, this is just clarifying it's all intent for sale.
Why don't you
So-
distribute that? I'll make a motion to accept it. For the public's awareness, Mr. McLean's report is available on our website, as I stated earlier. And once we accept these, we'll have them uploaded in the near future to our website for all of your viewing. I make a motion that we accept Mr. McLean's updated land use and planning project report, proposed comprehensive permit, major land development, 77 unit housing project, 360 Market Street, Warren, Rhode Island, dated August 24th, 2026, an updated version from the previous version dated July 2nd, 2026. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank
Please.
you. And just as another housekeeping item, I believe it's not the culture of this board to take motions on accepting experts.
No, we don't
That's fair.
certify experts, so please continue.
That's fair. Yeah, and I'll just
You
note
good with
the,
that?
Yeah, just take the value of his credentials, his resume,
Correct.
his past testimony for the testimony that is public.
Understood. Is the board good with that?
Yes.
All right, please continue.
great, thank you very much. So I'm prepared just to give a very high level summary of the main points that are contained within this report. And I really want to focus this on 5 main questions. The first question is this project compatible with the surrounding neighborhood? Question number 2, Does it meet Warren's local housing need?
Just real quick, can everyone hear him in the back? I'm seeing faces.
Yeah,
Um, I don't mean to interrupt your flow. I just-
No, you're fine.
Kinda
I do want everyone to hear me. I'll either project or trying to get this thing a little higher, but I think this is about as good as it's gonna get.
Just go ahead and twist it. Yeah, there, you're on the right.
You've done this before, huh, Ben?
Just raise the whole thing from the lower.
Let me ask the folks in the back, how's this? Great.
We have one person. You good back there? I know you can't hear. Yeah, we appreciate the feedback. We're trying our best, sir.
Yeah.
Please continue.
Sure, thank you. So I'll pick up where I was. 5 main questions I'm gonna address through my presentation. Is this project compatible with the surrounding neighborhood? Does it meet Warren's local housing need, which is a critical one as it relates to one of the key required findings of state law? Is it consistent with Warren's housing element within the comprehensive plan, which is serving as the community's update to its affordable housing plan? Fourth, is it consistent with the other broad policies within the town's comprehensive plan? And fifth, the last question is, does it satisfy the required standards for approval of a comprehensive permit? So let's jump right in. My first point is this project compatible with the surrounding neighborhood? The first thing to recognize about this property is that this is a proposal that's not seeking to develop on an undeveloped parcel of land and introduce an entirely new land use to a greenfield development. This is an already developed parcel of land, 44 acres that has historically functioned as an institutional campus, contains an existing school building and associated development, and cleared areas in the front of the site. The surrounding areas characterized primarily by residential neighborhoods, as well as significant open space and environmental resources associated with the Palmer River corridor. So residential is not foreign to this location. It represents a logical continuation of the existing land uses in the area. This also represents an opportunity to reuse and reinvest in an existing developed property, as well as an existing structure, that school structure, that can be utilized for housing and brought into functional use. So I think that that's an important planning principle of, first off, the compatibility is selecting a site in which we can limit the disturbance of raw natural resources, site the development towards the front, and provide an appropriate buffer towards the rear natural resources of the site, and reusing an existing structure, bringing it into greater functional reuse. I think the project has been deliberately concentrated in the areas of the site that are most appropriate. The development envelope responds to the environmental characteristics that are offered on this site. And I do believe this project's offering appropriate scaling and buffering. The property gives opportunities for a lot of spacing and setbacks that many other tighter sites in Warren simply don't have. So we've got opportunities for the landscape buffers that are being proposed along the edges of the property. We've got opportunities to keep that adequate buffer from the open space natural resources in the back. And in general, the scaling of the units themselves, as was shown on the architectural renderings, we're looking at generally about a 2-story, 2.5-story scale. That does not seek a massing that's greater than the existing school that's there, and it is not out of character with the massing and scale of some of the other residential structures in terms of the height and the profile. So, and one final point on compatibility is that this applicant isn't seeking to maximize the density bonus. Through state law, the density bonus is calculated as you can seek up to 5 units per acre on top of the underlying zoning. Underlying zoning here being an R20 zone, it's foreseeable to achieve close to 2 units per acre through underlying zoning. You add the 5 bonus units on top, you're at 7 units per acre that could be achieved through state law. This applicant, as was stated earlier, is seeking right about 5 units per acre. So, and that's the conservative metric, removing the conservation easement out of the calculations. So let's move on to my second point. Does this project meet Warren's local housing need? And this is a major relevant point as it addresses the core of the state law upon which this application is based. So Warren has a documented shortage of affordable housing, and affordability has become increasingly more difficult for local residents, as has been throughout the state. According to the 2025 Housing Fact Book prepared by Housing Works Rhode Island, approximately 7% of Warren's housing stock qualifies as low and moderate income. And at this level, Warren would need approximately 160 or so additional affordable units to reach the mandated 10% goal. So there is a measurable gap. The affordability issues in Warren extend beyond just seeking units to meet the required 10% goal. According to that same fact book, 2025, a household would need to earn an annual income of approximately $175,000 per year. $175,000 per year to afford the purchase of an average size single family home in Warren. So that number is particularly important. Again, $175,000. It demonstrates that the affordability problem is not limited just to those households at the lower end of the spectrum. There are working households, moderate income households who may not be able to afford a mortgage in principle, and they simply can't compete in the Warren housing market. And this was not just documented in this 2025 fact book. In your recent comprehensive plan, there was additional data just 2 years ago that suggested that the required income in Warren to achieve home ownership was $130,000 per year. So there's been, in the last 2 years, an increasingly jump in the required income needed to achieve home ownership of the average household in Warren. On the project proposes to address this in 2 ways. First, it's adding the required 25% deed restricted affordable households that must be limited to an income level or must be limited to a price level that is achievable to households at 120% area median income. So that's meeting the state requirement for those 25 units. But in addition, it's also providing a broader range of types and modest price points for the market rate units that in general, an average Warren resident may be able to achieve more successfully than some of the single family household price points. And that's an important distinction here. It's that this applicant is offering more moderate approach to the market rate units as well. So this is, again, the overall project is 77 units. 32 of them would be apartment style units in the existing school. 45 would be townhouse style units spread through the front area of the property. Warren's housing stock has traditionally been heavily oriented to single family housing. So this offers a different type of housing. That different type of housing is going to offer a more accessible price point. I think I like the word attainable housing. It may not be deed restricted affordable, but the market rate units will be more attainable. And this is in sync with what Warren is asking for in its housing element and its comprehensive plan. And we'll get into that next.
So on the affordable, right? So the numbers on this is what, like, you're meeting the bare minimum, right? You're meeting the bare minimum to get comprehensive.
25%. Yep.
You know, ideally, I would love to see more affordable units in here because you really don't move the needle. If you use the fact books that you're presenting, you know, you're moving the needle 0.2% barely, right? And you're bringing our need from 164 affordable units to get to our 10% down to 152. So it barely moves the needle on us for a project of this size. So I do understand what you outlined here. I think, you know, I'd love for the applicant to go back and consider potentially adding more affordable units to this in this conceptual stage. What are your thoughts on that as a planner? I mean, because if you were a planner, you'd be advising me.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that input?
It's a good question. I mean, catching me with a gut reaction on that. I've dealt with a lot of comprehensive permits recently. It is the predominant development tool for residential development across the state. I think when you've got a site where you feel it's an appropriate approach to development. You've got a site where there's an ability to concentrate the development in the appropriate areas outside of those natural resources. It's a pre-disturbed site. I think that's part of the metric. But I think when you have projects that aren't seeking more than the required density bonus, I'll give an example. I've got a project, I don't want to say the town. They're seeking 400 units through a comprehensive permit. The state required allowance would be 200. That's a pretty big difference. We are pushing that developer because they're asking for twice as many units, an additional 200 units. We are going to be pushing that developer for 30% affordable. We also believe it is an ideal site for housing, pre-disturbed, offers direct access to infrastructure. It really does help the community gain a lot of affordable units in a location we feel is appropriate. This development comparatively, we're not seeking above the max density. In fact, we're seeking underneath the max density. So I think there's a modest approach there. It's a fair question. I can't respond unilaterally to whether the developer would increase. I can only tell you amongst the spectrum of different comprehensive permits out there, I think you're getting one that's got a good site, it's appropriate site, it's not out of character. And I do think that being more modest with the number of units they're trying to achieve, I think that's where they're trying to not maximize the profit or maximize the density. And other examples where people might be going over the density, that's where I think you start pushing and say, I want more affordables. I want a greater percentage of affordables when people are maximizing the units. That's just my perspective.
Yeah. Okay.
So I do believe that this project's going to help people achieve housing, achieve home ownership, even those folks that wouldn't be eligible for the affordable units. I think it'll help them with the other units, those attainable units. I do think that helps will round this project and it helps meet Warren's housing need. Let's jump into how this also addresses the housing element of the comprehensive plan. State law now points to the idea that you have to identify how the project advances local housing need as defined by the Affordable Housing Plan. Warren's housing element acts as its update to its affordable housing plan. So here I believe I'm gonna cite a few goals. I don't wanna, there's a lot of details in the report. My goal is not to read every citation that's in the report. I'm just gonna hit the highlights. There are a number of goals that are directly applicable. Goal GH1, which is meet the needs of town residents for affordable and attainable housing to support a socioeconomically diverse community. So I believe that's really what this project is seeking to do. It's not maximizing the number of units. It is giving you the 25% affordable, and the market rate units would be more attainable for those residents that may not be able to afford a single family, but also may not qualify for the affordables. So I believe this project not only is consistent with that, I believe this project is helping to advance the implementation of that goal. The project, the next goal that's relevant, GH3, which suggests seeking a diverse range of housing options to accommodate a variety of household sizes, incomes, stages of life, and both homeownership and rental opportunities. Again, this project is focused right now on homeownership opportunities. That's the intent of the applicant at this time. I believe this project is advancing all those components. It's offering apartment style housing. It's offering townhouse style housing. That's a diversity of choice that helps when the predominant housing choice in Warren happens to be a single family unit. Again, it's a range of different unit sizes, capable of delivering to different household types. This could include young adults entering the housing market, small families. It could include empty nesters or retirees that are looking to downsize, seniors who may want to stay in Warren and they're looking for a more affordable place. So that's the kind of housing diversity contemplated by the housing element, and I believe this project is offering greater diversity. Goal GH5, also important, it calls for new residential development to complement historic scenic resources and avoid negative impacts on natural resources and neighborhood character. I believe this project responds to that goal by concentrating development on the previously disturbed portions of the site, while substantially preserving and protecting the wetland, floodplain, coastal, open space areas closer to the water feature. I believe that's an exercise in balance, produce housing where the site can accommodate it, protect areas where they should remain protected. I believe this application is doing that. Goal GH6 requires consideration of available utilities and the scale of massing of the residential structures. I believe this project benefits from the existing utilities, the water, the sewer, the roadway infrastructure that's immediately available. It's not proposing to create isolated development requiring new offsite infrastructure. It takes advantage of what's there. And again, I believe this project is seeking a scale that is modest in terms of the height. This isn't apartment complexes, it's two-story townhouses. And I think that it's also seeking to utilize the existing historic resource of the school building itself, renovate that building, bring it into greater repair. Let's move on to the next point, 4 out of 5. Consistency with the other elements of the comprehensive plan. This is no longer a required finding of state law for a comprehensive permit, but I think any planning board, any planner wants to understand how a project is consistent with the town's comprehensive plan. And I know that you have a new comprehensive plan that you want to ensure there's good guidance being given to development. So this project isn't simply a housing project that happens to be in Warren. It also advances those broader land use and community planning objectives. Land use element, goal GLU2, which calls for a land use pattern that is consistent with natural resource constraints, advances local economic development objectives, and minimizes incompatibility between adjacent land uses. Again, that describes the basic approach this applicant is taking. And so I spent some time on compatibility, that the applicant has attempted to develop something that they feel is compatible with the site and the surrounding resources. And we've got land use policy PLU5, which calls for targeted redevelopment planning and infrastructure improvements to revitalize neighborhoods and improve residents' quality of life. This redevelopment is directly consistent with that policy. This is predominantly a property that has historically been used for institutional purposes, but the proposal gives the opportunity to put that into productive use for housing, which is certainly a need in Warren right now. And it's adding housing in an area and a neighborhood that has surrounding housing. This is an appropriate setting for additional housing. Another one is climate resilience. Warren's long-term response to sea level rise and flooding. The comprehensive plan identifies that approximately 700 units within the Market Street project area that are vulnerable to future flooding, and discusses the importance of creating future growth opportunities in safer areas of Warren. This particular project is not within the Market to Metacom project area itself, and that's the area where there are existing units in the flood-prone areas. So this project is managing, it's not in the areas where there's anticipated strategic retreat. So this broader planning principle in the comp plan is relevant because this is siting the houses in an area that is outside those most vulnerable flood-prone areas. So it contributes to the broad objective of creating housing in the general region, but outside the most vulnerable areas as identified by the town's comprehensive plan.
So to address the flood zone, I opened up with this that portions of the development appear to fall within the FEMA Zone AE with a base flood elevation of 13 feet. Are any of these structures within that zone?
I'm going to defer to Mr. Cato for a second.
We're addressing flood zone. You do have a flood zone within this lot, so.
Yes, the flood zone line is actually behind the existing school
Okay.
in the wetland area. So all the units that are proposed are outside of that flood zone.
Just thank you for confirming.
So viewed comprehensively, I believe that this proposal is consistent with the comprehensive plan, not just the housing element, which that's where the critical state law asks for compliance. I believe it's also consistent with the broader land use goals within the comprehensive plan. The fifth and final talking point is compliance with the required findings for a comprehensive permit. So a lot of this I'm just going to offer as direct testimony, but again, I've covered a lot of this, so I don't want to repeat anything I've said. I really just want to cover what is the specific finding and then quickly address where that may have been covered or where there's evidence or the site plan addresses it. So the first is consistency with local housing needs. That's one of the most critical findings of a comprehensive permit, is identify that it is consistent with the local housing needs. As identified in the community's affordable housing plan. So again, that's your housing element. As discussed, the town has a documented affordable housing shortfall, and the housing element specifically calls for affordable and attainable housing. This proposed development responds directly to that. In my opinion, and based on the testimony provided and details in my report, I believe that finding has been made. Second, relates to consideration with compliance with the municipality zoning and subdivision regulations, and where relief or adjustments may be requested, whether the local concerns outweigh the state and local need for low and moderate income housing. So again, at this master plan stage, there's no evidence presented that would lead me to conclude that local concerns would outweigh the substantial documented need for housing as proposed here. The proposal is below the density that could be potentially achieved through a full build out. So I believe they are seeking a more modest approach to the development of this site. The project has been intentionally designed to balance housing production with environmental constraints and neighborhood compatibility. The third required finding is that the integration of the affordable units, that the units be essentially scattered or integrated throughout the development. That is this applicant's intent. They will proportionally include the affordable units in the existing building for the apartment styles as well as the townhouse styles, and there will be 25%. The fourth required finding is related to health and safety. The statute requires consideration of significant negative impacts on health and safety of current and future residents. And again, this goes to pedestrian vehicle circulation, emergency services, sewage, potable water, stormwater, protection of natural resources. Again, this project is designed to address all of that through the appropriate infrastructure and stormwater management. As discussed by the project engineer, the proposal is not expected to create any adverse health, environmental, or safety impacts, and this development can be appropriately served by the infrastructure and services. The fifth required finding is related to permanent access, that the whole project will have permanent access to a public street. That is very clear. That's direct frontage on Market. There is no issue with this development or the units being able to access Market Street. And the sixth required finding is related to the physical constraints of the site, whether there would be consideration of any individual lots or units that would be impractical or had physical constraints to development to access. And again, there's no indication that there'd be physical constraints to the development as proposed. In conclusion, I do believe that this project has met all of the required findings for a comprehensive permit. I do understand that there's a desire to really hammer home on the traffic safety issue, and that's a piece that we can revisit. Speaking just colloquially, it's a tough word. Shouldn't have even tried it. Speaking just off the cuff, I do believe that when you look at the traffic issues, the types of trip generation of this project are not going to overwhelm the street itself. I do believe.
Please.
Ladies and gentlemen, please. Ladies and gentlemen, you're going to have an opportunity for public comment. Please allow him to present. Continue.
Thank you. As a professional planner, I've reviewed traffic studies over and over again. In this particular setting, it's a state roadway. The state Department of Transportation is also going to take a very close and rigid look at this. Every change that this project is making will be evaluated. All the traffic studies that are produced are also going to be given to the state. They do not allow new development on state roadways unless it meets their level of review. And we do also intend to provide this board and the local officials with appropriate documentation with a full traffic study at the preliminary plan stage. I can understand that there's interest in making sure there's safe turning movements, ingress, egress, and getting in and out of the site. All of those components will be reviewed not just at the local level here, but also by the Rhode Island Department of Transportation heading into any consideration of the final plan. So I just want to know that there's multiple eyes on this. RIDOT does not take its reviews lightly. I know that this town won't take its reviews lightly. I know it'll also offer opportunities for public and emergency services to review to make sure that it has good, safe, adequate access for emergency services. So I did want to mention that because I know that traffic came up as a concern. I just wanted to offer my feedback on that topic. That concludes everything I have. I'm certainly available for questions. And if you think I may have missed anything, I'm happy to cover. Great.
All right, does the board have any questions for Mr. McLean?
Sure, I'll start. Under compatibility with surrounding neighborhoods, as I kind of glance at the entire corridor, along the entire length of Market Street from the state line to downtown and as far as you want to go, are there any other developments? And I understand that we're below the minimum or the maximum that you could require, but are there any other examples of anything with this type of density in the entire region?
I can't say that I've done a parcel by parcel look at the entire regional market, but I tell you what I will do, because I provided my testimony, so I will, whether it's me personally or I'm offering something in writing to consider at the next meeting, I'll take a look at that question. Right here as I stand, I can only tell you that this project is compatible with the immediate surrounding area, in my professional opinion, but I can't say I've looked at all of Market Street up and down to answer that specific question.
Okay. Is there a particular reason why there are no affordable units in the existing school building?
There will be.
They address that.
Yeah.
Oh, they did.
They're gonna mix
Yeah.
it. And
There will
just
be.
Matt, for the applicant, if this progresses forward, when you have those detailed plans, please label your units in numerical order and identify by number which ones are affordable. Thank you.
Thanks.
Anything else?
No.
Taylor? Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Like if there are questions that come from the public that we would like addressed, can we ask them of him when the public is done speaking?
Correct. So for the board, we'll allow the public to speak, at which point the applicant will be allowed to come back up and provide any further insight. In addition, the applicant will be back next month to provide traffic opinion letter and any other evidence they would like to submit as part of the record. Ben, you have any comments?
Nope.
Okay.
I said you need a motion to open the actual.
Yeah, no, I'm tracking. To the applicant, ma'am, do you have anything else you want to present, or are you good to go? All right, any other questions from the board before we open this up? Do I need a motion to open up to the public?
You did.
Okay. I make a motion to open the floor to public comments on this application.
I'll second.
Jenny seconds, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, so for the public, we are now open to public comment. In accordance with the planning board rules and regulations, public comments are at 3 minutes. Feel free to give any comments you want. This is your opportunity to speak. You're right. As I outlined earlier, there's factual findings that we have to provide in our decisions for this application. So it behooves you to provide factual insight that can help reinforce those decisions we need to make one way or another. That being said, the floor is now open to the public. If you'd like to speak, please approach the podium and state your name and address for the record. And as I said, we'll limit it to, we have a lot of public, we'll limit it to 3 minutes. At 9:30, we'll take, since we are continuing this, we'll continue public comments for the next hour and a half. If we see we need to go beyond that, due to the length of this application, the amount of materials that we've just been presented to us, we will continue at 9:30 p.m. to the next regular scheduled meeting, at which point, if we still have public comments, we'll continue those comments next month. Sir, please state your name and address for the record.
My name's Ron Jarvis. I live at 17 Birch Swamp Road. And I'm also running for state rep District 67, this is my district. The existing housing plots in the area are all single-family housing plots. You're proposing 2-story units. This is not good for Warren. Warren is a town, we're not a city. These housing plots that they put in, especially Penny Lane, 2-story buildings, you drive down Charles Street, it's hideous. It looks hideous. This proposal, if you proposed R20 housing, 2 houses per acre, I don't think too many people in the town of Warren would have a problem with this unit. But the way they're doing it now, everybody's gonna have a problem with this unit. You're gonna have traffic issues with 3 o'clock in the afternoon, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. The traffic's backed up to SMO King all the way through Warren. You can't even get out of Schoolhouse Road at that time. The sewer plant. You're adding all these extra units. You added 48 down at Penny Lane. You're adding more here. What's the impact on the sewer treatment plant? You have no more land to put an addition on the sewer treatment plant. So where's all the sewage gonna go? These are some of the issues that, you know, everybody's standing up here and saying this is a beautiful thing for the town of Warren. No, it's not a beautiful thing for the town of Warren. Do things right. The right thing to do, R20, 2 houses per acre, make it look like the existing housing plat to the south of this project. All the houses across the street, single family, 1-story homes. That's what the town needs. Town does not need this. I'll give my time up. Thank you.
Wait on, it can't be sidebars, just turn your mic on if you, sorry, the board member has a question.
I would request that we do not have applause. It shows respect for everyone who's speaking on both sides of this, and we wouldn't want anyone to be booed either. So personally, while you agree with something is fabulous and you'll have a chance to come up and speak to that, please hold your applause. It's respectful to everyone in the room. Thank you.
So please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Barry Brown. I live at 133 Kickamuit Road, and that space between Serpentine and Market Street. I've lived there for 44 years, and there will be a traffic light. It will literally be impossible for those people who are living there, should this project go through, to get out. They will not be able to get out. At certain times of the day, it would be impossible. It'll be very difficult at other times of the day. Right now, not just because of the construction that's going on in East Warren, but prior to that, the traffic would back up from Market Street all the way to Serpentine Road twice a day, and sometimes down Serpentine Road, making it almost impossible for us to get out. And I just want to say that I also spoke to the town council regarding Betancourt Farm. The traffic study that they did, those engineers, was on a Tuesday afternoon in February. That was the sum total of their traffic study. I would hope that these people will do something that's a little bit more in regard to their due diligence. So I'm in opposition, and I'm the last person in the world that would be a NIMBY kind of a person, but I don't want to be called that because I'm advocating for what Mr. Jarvis just said, which was something that's more in scale with what the town of Warren is. My wife was born and raised in Warren, and we're rapidly watching Warren becoming something that it certainly wasn't before. With Penny Lane, right down South Cornell, they built 3 duplexes right at the end of the street. I can't wait for them to see how that person's going to get in their garage. So I'm not in opposition to the housing. I'm in opposition to the scale of the housing. Thank you.
Here. Thank you.
There we go. Jim Baptista, 9 Taddy Avenue in Warren. My concern is traffic, and I live on Taddy Avenue, coming in and out of there. I know Mr. White had mentioned about a traffic report, and apparently you haven't done the traffic report yet as far as the analysis goes. So this is a question, because I'm not sure how this all works. Does this traffic analysis go all the way back to Swansea through Warren, or does it begin at the state line? And I ask that because it wouldn't take much to go online and to determine, even for 2026, there's already been about a half a dozen accidents of traffic coming in and out of 136. If you go back in history, there's been some fatalities. I live on Taddy Avenue, 16-year-old young lady lost her life. It was a number of years ago. but it was a fatality. There's been school bus accidents right on the corner of where I live. Tractor trailer rear-ending another vehicle going into a tree. So I've lived there. I've been there 40 years, and traffic has been an issue coming out of it. We always stressed when our kids got out their licenses, how are they going to come in and out of there? We have some elderly people in our neighborhood. I know this gentleman talked about possibly some elderly people downsizing. I don't know how they're going to come in and out of there, because we have elderly who live in our development who have to take a right. They can't even take a left to get on and head north on 136. They have to take a right because the traffic will not allow them. Never mind how many times people are honking their horns and intimidating when you have to pull out. So.
Thank you. On traffic, just to readdress this, I ride my bike 3 days a week to Desiata training just north of this in the industrial area from Medicom up Market Street, so I'm well aware of the traffic. We can't require a traffic study at the master plan. This is where we are, as I discussed. We are going to require them to submit an opinion letter. I can assure you when the traffic study does come to play, we will be looking at crash data, the fatality, as you mentioned. We'll also be looking at level of services, especially at, is it Schoolhouse that comes out by the pickleball courts?
Yes.
So that's our, for the applicant, if we move forward, when you get to the traffic plan study, which is not required right now, but if we move forward, we are going to want to see that level of service. Additionally, we would want to see level of service north of this. Schoolhouse coming out is right now being studied for a traffic light. So there's going to be some data that we're going to be comparing against. Do you have anything else to add, sir?
I just have a follow-up to that. So, because even for anyone who lives in that stretch where Taddy Avenue is, I don't know, I know they mentioned perhaps new sidewalks in front of the school, but is there a possibility of increasing the sidewalks all the way down because we don't have a place to walk?
And although we can't enforce that and just say you need to do that, I would like the applicant to take these comments into consideration as you go into further development of your plans. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Kathleen Corey Rami, 18 Taddy Avenue. Warren is a lovely community. I moved here a year ago and I couldn't be happier. It's inevitable that change will happen. I have no problem with developing this property. My problem is I feel the developer, MIOW LLC, whose internet presence is conspicuously scant, wants to put 45 townhouses and 32 apartments, which I feel is excessive. This location is a gateway, and in my opinion, an overdevelopment, if allowed, will change that character. They are taking advantage of Rhode Island general laws, so much for town autonomy. If they had adhered to R20 for their development, that would be great. It would be single-family houses, two-family. It's traditional, and it would fit in the neighborhood nicely. There was something I would like to talk about too, and that's the conservation issue, turtles. So I found out that there's rare diamondback terrapins that inhabit the brackish tidal waters and salt marshes at the Palmer River.
I'm sorry,
And
what was that species?
it's rare diamondback terrapins. So I found a turtle in my driveway. A neighbor about 3 houses down saw turtles, and that's on Taddy, and there's turtles at the end of South Grove. They're protected under Rhode Island law, and they're endangered, and they nest there. So it's my hope that the Conservation Commission will play an active role in this development. And again, reasonable and responsible development is welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good evening.
You can adjust it up. And then I'll just ask you to state if you hold the microphone, it will pivot.
Okay,
And then
there.
just state your name. and
Okay.
address.
Good evening. My name is David Oliveira, 175 Schoolhouse Road. I'm currently the president of Warren Citizens for Appropriate Development. as a group, some of our concerns are one that was mentioned earlier, which is a key one, is the sewer. I would like that as a resident and taxpayer, that we know exactly how much capacity we have left at that plant, because in other situations we've asked, and it's sort of like we have capacity as the answer, but what exactly is the actual number? So as a resident, I would like to ask that that be found and all residents be told what exactly is the capacity. Because at the end of the day, if we end up with a plant that cannot handle the capacity, we, the people, the taxpayers, are going to have to foot the bill for that. And that is the side effect of a lot of these larger kind of projects that, oh, everything's fine, but then down the road, we're going to end up footing the bill. One thing that hasn't been mentioned, and honestly, I'm not sure if there are in the area, but I believe there are, wells. How many of the local residents nearby have wells? And what's the potential effect of this project on those folks?
Are you gonna be doing wells on this property? Okay.
Okay. So I meant also like the
Yeah,
neighbors.
I just wanna help you out and get.
Yeah, I didn't know if the neighbors, if there are any that have wells. Again, the traffic's a concern of ours. We talk about 136, it's a state road, but no matter how you slice it, it's still 2 lanes. That's just the name of the game, and people are driving fast there. One, this is like, again, I don't know how it affects us, except for the fact that we have a great volunteer fire department. At what point, when we keep adding these different additional projects to the town, at what point are we in a position that they can't take care of our needs? And then who's going to pay that bill? So again, these are all things that we can't just look at one thing in a vacuum. We need to consider what's the effects down the road. And again, that goes for police as well. Our police is a paid department, but I think fire is huge, that we're currently volunteer. We have to go to professional, no, I shouldn't say professional, but full-time paid positions. How would we ever afford that? What would the taxes be for the residents? Again, effects on schools. That's another key, component that will affect this long-term. And one question that I had from the presentations that were made, again, we're told about the units that'll be attainable. I've never heard that term before. I'm not sure what that means. Like, what's the dollar amount? If we're trying to sell the town, I'm like, hey, we're going to have these attainable units. Like, well, how much exactly is that going to be? And again, we're talking about changing our town, making changes to our town for basically 20 units for 30 years. After 30 years, they can do what they want with them. So it's 30 years. So again, I always have this problem with these kind of projects because we're selling our soul for 20 units for 30 years. And after that, they can do what they want. So those are the things that we're concerned with.
Thank you.
Thank you.
As far as the attainability, is that outlined in the LMI Act to say like where these have to be priced at?
It's set by HUD and it's
HUD.
updated annually. And so it goes at 60%, 80%, 120% of LMI.
But-
So actually, there's 2 issues. One is the affordable units, which is what you're talking about.
Right.
And I believe the planner for the developer was referencing a concept of attainable units, that the pricing of the market rate units will be lower than many of the new construction in the market, unless I'm misstating.
Good.
Are you talking about like workforce?
Do we want to stay?
Are you okay with this?
Yeah.
Okay. And this is typically, we just allow you all to come up and ask questions one after the other. I find this more productive if we can start getting answers to your questions as we go through, because we're going to have a lot of questions. Ma'am, please.
Well, market units are called market units because the prices will be driven by the market. And although we can't tell you what we're expecting or would like to sell them for at the moment, I think the attainability comes from that a townhouse style home in a development like this will always be lower than a single family home on a 2-acre lot. So it will give opportunity to, and maybe I'm wrong, it is our market forecast that there will be, will attract young couples who want their first home and can afford a 2-acre lot or an acre lot and don't necessarily want to do the lawn maintenance and all the maintenance, and empty nesters who want to downsize but not live in an apartment building, still want a little bit of a greenery and have their own privacy and a separate door and a garage, but not have to cut the lawn and all things like that. That is our expectation of market who would be interested in these units. And it's just I guess, more of a general assumption that a townhouse style home in a gated complex will always be less than a market rate, single family on an acre lot.
So although the applicant doesn't need to provide those numbers now, that's something that'll be addressed if this moves forward to the preliminary plan. As far as the sewer capacity, that is also a concern I share. Is there a way to get our current capacity, remaining capacity prior to, during the because conceptually speaking, that is part of the, like, does this fit, right? Is this conceptually attainable? And I think that is dependent on our capacity, because we have heard that we are getting close to capacity, so having a better understanding. Is that something do you think we'll be able to get by next meeting?
I can ask the plant manager. It seems, my understanding is it's kind of a moving needle. You're talking about a pump station versus the sewer plant, and we know the pump stations are slated or have been started for renovations and improvements. So I will try and get a clarification from him for the next meeting.
I'd love to get that, even if he can just come and bring light to us and the public on where that capacity is and where it may be, and then potentially the engineers to rebuttal that.
And we're already working with them
Understood.
and submitted our data of what we expect the demand of this project will be. And obviously working with two departments apparently to understand what it would do to your plans, what upgrades will be required, how much it will cost, and how our development proceeds with those upgrades to your sewer plant.
And as an individual, I don't speak for the board. I think that's something, just broad strokes from a conceptual standpoint. I'd like to have a better understanding of where we are at capacity and how this may impact that. I'm not looking for details as that required in the preliminary plan, but just something conceptually, like, does this actually work with our current capacity? Understanding our fiscal constraints as a town, and are we gonna be able to meet that demand that you may have? Not saying you will or you won't. I just think it'd be good to have our subject matter experts come in at the next meeting.
It was brought to our attention that you may not meet the capacity and will require upgrades.
Hi.
So the conversation is here, what those upgrades are, how much they are, and do they fit in our budget? So we are prepared to do those upgrades.
So as an applicant, in the event that we do not meet capacity, there's a potential that you're willing to invest in increasing our capacity.
Correct.
Okay.
Unless it's completely astronomical amount and just doesn't, kills the entire project.
Okay.
We absolutely are committed to improvements and upgrades to the local sewer plant.
And we're flagging this for all major developments in the
Yeah.
town going forward. And we're tracking them amongst the department heads, and it comes up almost like a pre-app conversation now. If we see that it's X amount of units in an area of the town, and there's been X amount of units the year before, or we know there's X amount of units also being planned, having those kind of staggering counts and having those conversations among all the department heads with the town manager.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Public comments still open.
Yeah, I got a couple of more things. A two-story townhouse to be built will cost more than a single-family house. So the tax rate for a townhouse would be that much greater.
Sorry.
Ron Jarvis, I'm already,
Yeah, please continue.
yes. So the tax rate would be that much more greater for a two-story townhouse than a single-story house. So two houses on an acre, these people are saying that people don't want to cut grass. R20, you ain't got much grass to cut with a single-story house on it. With these townhouses, you're not even going to start a lawnmower because there is no grass to cut. And there's one other thing that needs to be addressed. The school departments in the town of Warren. You got all them units on Charles Street, you got all these units going up here. Is our schools capable of the children that are going to be moving into the town?
Thank you, sir. You're all set. On the schools, I know right now, we're looking at increasing enrollment. Can we get input from the committee on what the deficit is? And then use that, you know, like if the deficit is X amount of enrollment, is that something that can be applicable
I can
here?
make the request to the school department, the superintendent.
All right, so I'd like to just direct the planner to make a request to the school department to understand where their current capacity is, understand there's currently a deficit, what that is, and with that, we can back into some numbers, but microphone's open to the public.
My name is Heather Germain. I live at 362 Market. I am one of the only homes that do not have a vegetation buffer. So everybody on Teddy Street, they have some kind of landscaping in between them. For me, I am almost directly in view.
As far as this property is?
Right.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I missed your first part. Can you say it again, please? What were you doing for landscaping?
There is no landscaping in between me and the development, whereas along Teddy, there is a line of trees. For me, I'm right on the corner. My property abuts right up to the driveway. One of my bigger concerns is everybody's mentioned traffic. I also want them to take into account the merging traffic from Old Market Street. There is a stop sign, but hardly anybody actually stops at the stop sign. They blow right through it.
Yeah.
And they just aggressively try and merge in. Some of them merge in right at the entrance of the school.
I've almost been hit by those people I know.
I learned the hard way that I cannot just pull into my driveway and assume that whoever is coming up to that stop sign is going to stop. I've been in a couple of near misses. The other concern is light pollution. The parking spaces, they're going to be lit up. The townhomes, I don't know, most of them I think are facing inward. But I would like to know, is there going to be line of sight into my backyard now? Because there is no buffer. The light, I have a lot of wildlife that comes through my backyard. I have a cedar fence that I put up between me and the school for privacy, but I did leave it open on the very back. So all of the animals that come through there, they still come through. So I just had a 4-point buck come through my yard just yesterday, and I don't want that to change. But as far as noise as well, the school, it was narrow hours when I knew that there was kids out in the yard or people coming and going. I knew the times and certain times of the year. Now it's going to be 24/7. And is that going to affect my enjoyment of my yard? And I also wonder, is it going to block any of the breeze that comes through my yard? Because the sunlight and the breeze, the breeze is what keeps my yard cool, is that breeze coming in. So if that's going to be blocked by any of the townhomes, or if they're going to be looking into my yard, that's a concern for me.
I know we're not presenting thank you, ma'am, the landscaping plan now, but please take those comments into consideration. These are also comments. It'd be who of you as an applicant to address these. We're gonna have another meeting. I know you're taking notes. It'd be helpful. Please, sir.
How we doing? Wayne Van Marder, 29 Taddy. Quite a few things here. First of all, the wooded lot behind the school, it's USDA protected. So how are we going to keep 150 people from storming in there with electric bikes, mini bikes, dirt bikes, strolling through for walks? Again, disrupting the wildlife. Right now, the geese are going to be starting to flock to the front of that soccer field for their migration. There's big flocks that have stopped there every year, coming and going for migration purposes. One of the other things I want to address is the dumpster out back. Are we putting a wall around it, a cage? Because we have a massive amount of skunks, raccoons, coyotes, children. If you're going to put 150 people into apartments, and how's that going to be protected? Also, the retention pond. You're going to be putting a mosquito patch right behind my house. Is that going to be protected with fencing? How deep is it? Are they gonna redirect the water off the buildings now because it drains out into the field behind my house? So when they put them townhouses in the back corner, are they gonna be digging up that drainage ditch? If they are, what are they gonna do with it after that? Pour it into the retention pond? There's probably several drainage ditches or drainage pipes, I should say, in the back of that school bleeding into the woods. I don't know, it's thick and you can't go in there anyway, but I'm sure if they dig it, they'll find it. The traffic's already been addressed. The garbage dumpster, pushes everybody. Gentleman over here stated that the state's gonna watch the traffic very closely, monitor the sidewalks. I've lived here close to 40 years. We don't have sidewalks. The state doesn't monitor nothing on the East Bay. I'm 6 foot tall, and if I go try to walk up the street toward the state line, I gotta duck. So with the landscaping, are we gonna put the bushes right up to the sidewalk so that UPS has to pull out into the intersection? FedEx has to pull out into the intersection? Mail people have to, Walmart deliveries. You got all these extra delivery trucks, because I'm a retired commercial driver, by the way. So I kind of think about these trees and bushes that we have to whack and pull out into the intersection so we can see where the heck we're gonna go, along with the traffic. One of my other concerns is the building, nothing against the building inspector for the town. But is he gonna have help in the commercial part of this process with inspecting the building? I haven't heard any square footage in anything. Are we putting in shoe boxes, 2-bedroom shoe boxes? Are we putting in good sizable houses? I mean, we really don't want a whole bunch of riffraff in the backyard. The deer are beautiful back there. Most of the neighbors like them, but some people don't. I noticed the townhouses didn't have an excessive amount of parking. So where's everybody gonna park? In that front little parking area? Or are they gonna park on the streets going in and out? People don't like to walk. So you're gonna have all them cars come visiting these townhouses, but they're not gonna park where they need to park if there's even enough spots to park there. So that's gonna be a problem for emergency vehicles and delivery trucks again.
I'm gonna be respectful and let you finish, but you are past your 3 minutes, so.
I realize.
I'll let you go.
I was gonna give my notes to.
No, per the regulations, we have this authority, so I would like you to continue, but. I
Well,
gotta
I'm
tell you, be respectful of the
basically
time.
getting there.
Yep, you're good.
Oh, the rental. We're saying it's gonna be rental property,
There-
affordable.
There is no rental property.
Correct. So are we gonna be taxing the people on property taxes? Of course we are. Then we have the sewer tax. There's another one. Then we have the water bill. There's another one. How the heck's that gonna be affordable with a mortgage? Even at $100,000, it's getting ridiculous in this town. If I can think of anything else, I'll come back. Thank you.
Sir. So the sidewalks, just so as you know, we understand the conditions of the sidewalks on Market Street. We did this in a previous application, down by the pickleball courts. Anyone that comes in front of this board on Market Street and has a property that has that sidewalk, we are making it a priority to make sure these sidewalks get updated, just so everyone's aware. And I really appreciate the comments on the landscaping and this line of sight coming out of there. I did not think about that. I request that the applicant just be prepared to address that. Microphone's open.
Joseph Orton, I live at 65 Birch Swamp Road. And I know there's another meeting and I don't want to be repetitive, but when they do the traffic study, they should do Birch Swamp Road also, because every time there's a little bit of a slight delay on Market Street, everybody goes down Birch Swamp Road, way in excess of the speed limit. So I think that's really important. As a few other people brought up a good point, you're putting 5 units per acre, that's less than R10. That's even smaller than R10. That's a lot of impact on each acre. And as far as the sewer, that building now has a septic system. that school has a septic system. So you could almost, the town could almost hold them accountable. Are you obligated to let them tie into the sewer? Make part of that with a private septic system. And that, they wouldn't have you'll have the density they have there. So those are all things that they could look into.
Thank you, sir.
So-
All right, sorry, anything else you'd like to present?
Oh, no, that's pretty much it.
Okay.
Yeah, I know there's another meeting. When I get back, I'll be a little more prepared, but that's about it for the moment.
My name's Richard Ferrara, and I've lived on Market Street for 50 years. I live, what used to be Old Market Street, now they've incorporated that into Market Street for some resection, I don't know what they did. But anyway, I could be a traffic study, because it's, I don't want to swear.
Folks, please address that, the chair, thank you.
Yeah. The traffic on Market Street is horrible. Rush hour is ridiculous. It's backed up from Malice past, well, the town line, easily, going both ways. You're gonna put 200 cars in this area? How are they gonna get out to go to work, if they're gonna work? Another thing, I'd like to know, what is the price point of these townhouses and these apartments? I mean, what are we doing here? What are you really building? What do you?
Please, sir, please address me. Wait, as public comments, please address your public comments through the chair. not
I
the-
apologize.
No, you're okay. I'm just trying to let you know. the
Again,
process.
what are we bringing to Warren? What's coming here? What are who's going to afford this? And we know what housing costs. We know what it's going to cost to develop it. We're not stupid. I've been in construction. It's not cheap. And it's paid $4 million for this piece of property. They're going to recoup it somehow. They're going to put another $15 million in it to build this thing. You're talking $20 million. They're not selling this stuff for peanuts. This isn't a humanitarian effort. This is commercialism. We live in it. We're not getting away from it. And I'd like to know what the buffers are going to be between the properties. I mean, my property abuts their development, their proposed development. The only thing that's saving me from a bunch of contention is that cemetery that belongs to the Mason family burial plot. I live in their old house from the 1700s. And you got Patriots of the Revolution that buried in there. And the gentleman that maintains that property is sitting right back there. And he's looking for egress. He's going to want to know how he gets back and forth into that property. And that'll go right before the Cemetery Commission, the Historical Cemetery Commission for the state of Rhode Island. Now, I talked to them, and it's all there. So that's about what I got to say. But I mean, traffic is, you're in for a real heartbreak.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
As a buffer zone, as the applicant alluded to, they meet the setback requirements. They're not going to seek any waivers. I know I've heard density a lot. Density is not a consideration under the comprehensive permit process that we can consider. We can't say the density is too high for this zone because they bypass that by way of the comprehensive permit process. As I explained earlier, that's a state law that we can't overstep. Just want to make that clear. But the buffer zone, correct, you guys are going to adhere to the requirements for R20 in the buffer zone on the frontage and side and back setbacks. This cemetery, I've heard this numerous times. Are you prepared to address, or would you like to wait till next meeting? Can you just tilt that microphone down, like pull it? Yeah, there you go.
Yep. So one, we are making consideration for the cemetery, and TRC also brought their concerns to us. We're going to make sure that whatever we do with the site, the stormwater doesn't pitch from our side towards the cemetery. Also, cemetery has its own driveway. It doesn't go through our site. So they have their own access. So this development will not block or impede their access. We're not sharing a driveway. They have their own private entrance to the cemetery.
And we have a historic cemetery commission, well, I know we have a lot of commission and boards. I believe there's something of that nature. I don't know.
It might be the one commission that doesn't involve.
I know. All right, I was gonna ask for just like a quick address it with the cemetery commission to get ahead of it, but I don't know if that's a thing. I may be wrong, but thank you for addressing the cemetery. Microphone's open.
My name is Don Murphy. Live at 6 Brittany Lane. I've been there since they built it. When Allegria went in there and it was the Newcomb Farm. Anyway, they were originally going to.
Sorry, can you just tilt that microphone up? There you go. Thank you, sir.
They were originally going to put in 10,000 square foot lots. There was going to be 3 times the amount of houses in Brittany Lane than there are now. The town of Warren came back and said, absolutely not. You're not going to tax the schools, the sewer system, the water, the traffic, everything. They said, no, minimum 30,000 square feet. We all have 3/4 of an acre. So why was that shot down then? But now they're letting something like this go through.
Because of the comprehensive permit.
There's got to be a minimum. There's got to be a maximum that you could have on a piece of land.
Under the comprehensive permit, it doesn't set a maximum for the low to moderate income act or the Rhode Island Housing Authority or HUD now. There's no minimum set. It just gives them a way to bypass that density requirement. Doesn't set a minimum. Now, when an application exceeds that, in order for density to be considered as a denial, it needs to be associated with other components that attribute it to it, whether it's public safety, infrastructure, things of that nature. So it can't be density alone. It has to be attributed to other aspects, which is usually identified during the preliminary plan process, where we get a comprehensive look at the details of the plan. Because right now it's just a high level. Conceptually, does it meet the requirements that I outlined in my opening statements of the 6 requirements for comprehensive permit? So I hear the density, I hear what you're saying. There's no minimum, there's no maximum set. The allowance is that you don't have to adhere to our zoning ordinances that sets our minimums and maximums. They can bypass that per Rhode Island state law. So let's, Ben, you have anything to add? Good on that interpretation?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening. Scott Little, I live at 351 Market Street. My property that runs along Market Street is directly across from Fatima High School, or the old Fatima High School, which is now the Highlander Charter School. My family has been there since the early 1900s. There's a lot of wetlands. My concern now is going to be the additional rain runoff. When you do away with grass and you put concrete, the water's got to go somewhere. There is already a pipe that runs from that property under Market Street, which drains water into my property, which was blocked for the last 20 years. But amazingly, it has been dug up and now water is starting to flow from that side of Market Street to this side of Market Street. We've already talked about densities and concerns about the size of the buildings and everything. My concern now is going to be with the rainwater runoff.
And this is our opportunity, not during this plan, this application. So whatever happens here, if we approve and it goes to preliminary plan, that's where we get into the details of stormwater management.
That is correct. And I understand the process. I've been members of boards in this town for a long time. And I understand the process.
But I want
Thank
to
you for
address what we're
clarifying
going to
it.
do.
But I will be looking forward to more information on this.
As will we. As I said, we just went through the state stormwater management, some wonderful education that I received through that. I can assure you that stormwater management plan is going to be a key priority of this board if this project moves. to
Well,
the
I hope
next
so,
stage.
because when I built my house, this town put me through the ringer when it came to the water mitigation plans that I had to pay for and prove to this town that I wasn't going to flood out my aunts or my parents when I built my property.
As we will with this applicant, this isn't an us versus you. This is us as a community coming together and finding the best way forward. So it's not us versus you in this. But I can assure you, if anything, we will address that as a primary concern. And I would hope that our addressing it would actually bring benefit to you, just so you're aware. So it is a
I hope so.
priority for us.
I hope so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to give the public, any more public comments? So Ben, because they have to come back, right? I don't want to close a public hearing. I want to do a motion to continue to the next scheduled meeting.
You can, that will allow the applicant to come back and respond to some of the comments. It also allow members of the public to also respond to some of the documentation that they were unable to see today. Because
Okay.
it's presented today. So certainly a motion to continue the public hearing to next month is certainly appropriate if that's what the board wishes.
So for the board, what I think would be best is I want to give the more public opportunity to comment on the next scheduled meeting. Since we are going to carry over, I would like to open up the next scheduled meeting with public comment. There'd be documents that the public is now informed of where to locate those documents, give them another opportunity to comment. Then we'll give the applicant an opportunity to provide any additional evidence, information. I'd love for you to address a lot of these public comments, provide your traffic opinion letter. Once that's satisfied, then we can close the public hearing and move into deliberation.
And, Bianca, if residents don't have access to printers on the internet, can they come into the planning office and see printed copies of the plans?
Yes, they can.
So members of the public, you're able to see everything that's going to be presented, anything that's been added today, and it's already part of the record on the town's planning board website at the bottom of our page. Additionally, if you don't have access to technology or printers and you'd like to come in and see physical copies of the plan, you can do so on this floor at that service window in the hallway. So with that being said, I make a motion to continue the application for 360 Market Street, Warren, Rhode Island, Plat 23, Lot 68 and 69 to the next regular scheduled planning board meeting in September
For a public hearing.
for a public hearing.
Second the motion.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. This application is continued to the next meeting. I ask as the public leaves, please do not meet in the hallway for comments. Please proceed to the front because all of that will bleed in. We'll give them a couple minutes to exit and then we'll continue.
September 21st, correct? I dumped my calendar.
Oh, what's that? Next meeting?
Yeah.
The 24th?
No, it's not? 28th?
28th?
Okay.
Yes. 28.
28, yeah. What happens when you let me play around with the phone?
28.
Unsunk my calendar. No, where am I at? Wait, there's 2 more deadlines to move. Wait, where are we?
Once again, I ask the public, please leave. If you're gonna stay, you're more than welcome to stay. Other than that, please leave and not have conversations.
That'd be great.
How much more do we have to go, Blake?
We're almost done. Floor for general public comment on matters not already heard tonight. Please state your name and address for the record. Make a motion to close public comment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ordinance, item number 6 is an update on the ordinance work underway regarding land use zoning and housing. Quick update on this, Bianca, just quick update, and then you can email out.
Okay. So as everyone's aware, we've had about 50 plus law changes to land use and housing over the last 5 years. We are towards the tail end of what we're calling phase 1 of updating the packet to bring us to the state standards for the town. We anticipate having to call a special meeting in September to present that to the board and have a public hearing at the same time. The packet right now is about 150 pages. We've also changed the formatting for ease of use. What we're going to do is we're going to have at the meeting the consultant who helped us walk everyone through it. It will be a key, so there'll be certain like red lines, highlights, things that were changed. And what we're doing right now is really focusing on just bringing us up to the standard and then having a phase 1B and then phase 2 and phase 3 for ordinances that we really need to dig into. But we really need to get this done, and we're setting the timeline for the September 29th special meeting of town council. So the plan would be to have a special meeting the week prior to with planning commission.
So can we go ahead and get that? Do we want to get that meeting on the books right now? If everyone,
I just need to confirm that I have availability of this room on the 21st of September.
can we do, or is everyone okay if we,
Put it tentatively in my schedule for the 21st.
put it tentatively, but let's do an email, Alyssa, out to the board to confirm within the next week?
My goal is also to have a preliminary draft out to you prior to. It will be a working copy. So just to remember, it's going to be privileged and confidential only to the board members and will not become a public document until at some time that it's put for a public hearing.
And when we receive this, remember, we're not looking to make material changes. This isn't a wish list item of this is what we want to do. This is just about bringing us to a baseline of state law. This isn't about updating it. This is say, hey, we're in compliance with state law. We're making a format that flows. In phase 2, which I would like this board to take on in 2027, that's when we start making material changes that align with the comprehensive plan and the town's needs. We good on that? So we'll go ahead tentatively the week of the 21st. We're going to have a special meeting. Alyssa will email out the board.
Probably it will be in the evening. If I can make it a little bit earlier in the day and that works for everyone, I will. I just had to make sure I have availability of the space for us to meet.
And then when you get that email, just a reminder, don't reply all, just reply straight to Alyssa with your availability or any questions. Item 7 is a discussion on the transit orient development in Warren. I'd like to make a motion to direct Bianca, our town planner, to provide an update via email to the board. Are you okay with that?
That's fine.
This way, it's going to be more comprehensive. We can have time to digest it, and then we can add this to the next month's agenda to talk more in depth and receive a update.
I will be calling a public meeting, but it's more of a stakeholder meeting. So it won't be a special meeting for the planning board or any of the communities as a whole. It'll be more about engagement of various community members, and that will be scheduled for sometime in early October.
Do I have a second on my motion?
Second.
Any discussion on this, pushing it to an email and then an update next month? This way we have time to digest the materials. All in favor?
Aye.
Item 8 is board member comments. One comment I have is we have next month, we want to talk about our policy, our rules and regulations that govern our board and talk about red lines with that. It is a goal of this board to update our rules and regulations as they are very antiquated at this point. Second to that, I would like to, next meeting, to also address any red lines to the planning board member reference packet.
Dwight, next month is gonna be a doozy. I mean, you're talking about 10 Liberty Street,
Yeah,
talking about this thing, another one of these go-rounds.
yeah, it's a good point.
Potentially the, the.
Potentially do it as, I have to figure out a way for us to do it to avoid a rolling quorum, but I wonder if it could be done as a working document to the board and each individual gives feedback at a later date.
I already see that.
Well, okay.
All right, let's do this.
Let's do that.
Looking at priorities of work and understanding, I think we have this special meeting, as you said, we do have a heavy meeting. Please continue, instead of saying next month, we're going to talk about rules and regulations, please continue to work on them and make progress on your red lines. And then we kick this right to October. You guys all right with that?
Yes.
Any discussion, comments from the board members as we are on this?
I'll just make the comment that follows on to those observations that I don't like 2 meetings a month, but I also recognize that there are times in the cycle of this board when that's necessary. And we have a very ambitious lift over the next 6 months between the zoning rewrites, our regulation rewrites, and the number of comprehensive permit applications that are likely to come our way, in addition to the Meow LLC. I am not averse to penciling in at some point a second alternate meeting date for every month. I don't want to say that we have to do that now. I'm just saying I'm thinking that way. I personally don't have a problem with that. I want to be able to get this heavy lift done because I think it's critical for the community.
So I think the board and staff, we remain open to the potential need for an additional special meeting during Q4. Understanding we lost 2 meetings this year that we had to cancel. So that kind of brings us up to par to, we do have a heavy lift. So everyone just be open to that come October, November,
would-
December.
I think it would be easier as a board if we, the nights that we need to deal with our comprehensive permits, we don't add the, rules and regulations,
Okay.
the administrative work that we need to do.
Understood.
You know,
And other
those
planning
would be-
boards in other communities handle it that way. They have
Yeah.
2 meetings a month and one meeting is housekeeping and one meeting is public hearings.
And we might even want to consider, as we look to set the calendar for next year, doing a quarterly housekeeping meeting.
Yeah.
So we're not necessarily doing two a month, obviously if something's timely and necessary, but going forward, having a quarterly additional meeting. It could be earlier in the day, or it could be first thing in the morning. I've done those as well, before people go to work, and just doing housekeeping.
So Terry, I appreciate.
Can
go ahead.
these cannot be done over Zoom?
No,
can-
they have to be public meetings where we're here. I appreciate that feedback. On the next agenda, I'll take that to make sure I don't overload it and put too much on there. Let's just be flexible in Q4 to another special meeting. Any other comments or discussion from board members for item 8? All right, hearing none, I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, great job.